If you think about the court as the Supreme Court of the United States and a rational actor and a decent one, that was a reasonable supposition, and it just turns out they're not bad. Incremental bit of progress here. The important question here is not whether the Supreme Court is going to decide that Donald Trump and all presidents are immune from prosecution for things crimes they committed while they were president. I mean, it would be fully insane for them to actually side with Trump here, right? The conclusion that we can arrive at now based on what they have done without having to wait for the ruling is that they are ensuring that Trump will not face trial. And when they inevitably rule that presidents aren't immune from prosecution after they leave office, what that will tell Donald Trump, if by then he is president, is that he can never leave the office of the presidency. Right. And if he is voted out in 2028, he cannot leave office, and he is willing to he is welcome to commit any crimes he wants to, as long as he is still president, in order to ignore the result of that election and stay in power for life, because otherwise he's going to go to prison when he gets out.
I mean, dude, poor Rachel, man. I feel bad for Rachel Maddow. I feel bad for her and a lot of people just like her. They worked themselves into a pretty complete meltdown over the Supreme Court just deciding to hear Trump's immunity claim. The same immunity claim that they knew weeks ago was going to be heard, and they were complaining that it was going to be heard and slow it down. The same people that were begging the Supreme Court to hear this immunity claim before the Circuit Court of Appeals. But now they're in a tiffy because they could dare hear this claim. And I'm actually surprised. I didn't think they were going to hear it, and not because I don't think they should. I'm actually surprised because they took so long to make the decision. I had guessed that the decision had been made and someone was writing a pretty lengthy and probably pretty fiery dissent. But that's what we get for trying to guess what the court is doing, right? Because remember, they have a lot of different options, a lot of ways they can hear a case or decide a request, right? And I think what's going to be interesting here when we get farther down the road, I think we're going to discover that it was a unanimous decision to hear this. So they can whine and complain all they want, and the left can minimize it all they want. They can tie it fully to Trump and his alleged crimes all they want, but the question is important. The question is about the president's, or really any government official's, absolute immunity. And this is very, very important stuff. And I think as we watch a lot of these meltdowns I'm going to show you, and you hear people talking about it, a lot of people in the media, they either don't understand or are being purposefully misleading about what absolute immunity even means. It is not a guaranteed blanket sort of immunity that says the official can commit whatever crimes they want. The name's a little misleading, right? But all it is an official's immunity from prosecution from things related to their official duties. And it is very, very important stuff. And the people in the government, the people in the media, they know how important it is, but they just don't care because Donald Trump, it's all they care about. Even if this delay in Trump's case is to set some sort of important precedent regarding immunity, and that's good for every other government official that has ever served or ever will serve. If it's also good for Donald Trump, well, that just can't be good for anybody.
The Supreme Court has decided that it will, in fact, hear the case involving Trump claiming that presidential immunity prevents him from being prosecuted by Special Counsel Jack Smith in the election interference case. Now, this is a big win for Trump already, and I'll explain why. Steve Vladek, who is a CNN Supreme Court analyst and also a professor at the University of Texas School of Law, has an interesting theory. He says that the surprise is that it took the court the better part of 2 weeks to reach this result from which no justice has publicly dissented, meaning it does appear, at least for now, that unanimously these judges, Supreme Court justices, I should say, wanted to hear this case. The justices couldn't reach consensus on a way to resolve the matter without giving it full briefing and argument. So they're not going to rush this. They've decided to really hear Trump out on this. And so this is the way they intend to go forward. It's hard to read any tea leaves into whether that makes the court more likely to side with former President Trump when it finally resolves this immunity claim. But it certainly means that even in the worst case scenario for Trump, the January 6th prosecution will be delayed for at least another 3 to 5 months. That's a pretty big win for Trump, even if he ends up losing this case.
Yeah, these people are pretty upset, man, because remember, to a lot of these people, This has never, ever, ever been about single-tiered justice being done. This has never been about reason, never been about truth. This has been about trying, convicting, tarnishing, and destroying whatever fantasy they have, Donald Trump. And by extension, anyone and everyone who is not Joe Biden before the presidential election in November. That is all this is about. They just want to get it done. They want to get it over with. And this is why you actually see the government try to invoke the Speedy Trial Act, which of course was never meant to be a tool of the government. That is a tool of the defendant. Congress was pretty clear about that in 1979. But anyway, this case is a big deal, and it's all about timing here. And now a lot of the folks on the left, they are losing their freaking minds. You know, they think that the court should have just decided it without argument or gone back to the lower court and told everyone to pack sand, figure it out. Instead, the court is taking their time and giving it their full attention. And I have an idea why.
Remember how, let's say, all of 2022, I came on your program and I screamed and I tore my hair out over how Merrick Garland was moving too slowly to hold Trump accountable before the next election? This is why, because you have to understand what the Supreme Court is really about. I know you like to give your viewers context, so have this on for some context about what the Supreme Court is really up to. Trump was kicked off of the Colorado ballot. All right. And around December 20th last year, the Supreme Court spooled up that case and heard that hearing within 45 days on February 8th. All right. Trump was appealed his immunity, Judge Chutkan's immunity ruling, also in the middle of December. Andrew Weissman just pointed out Jack Smith asked the Supreme Court to hear the case on December 14th. By the time we get to April 22nd, it will be 130 days since they were asked to hear the appeal. So it's 45 days when a ruling could hurt Trump, but 130 days when the delay can help Trump. That is the essence of this Supreme Court. And every single Democrat who is not on board for expanding the Supreme Court and reducing the power of these Republican theocrats in robes is in some way complicit in today's failure.
Excellent numerical, factual context.
Just look at everything about this channel, man. What the hell is wrong with Michael Steele? Honestly, when you see him here, anytime you see him, he just proves how long and how deep the true uniparty corruption of the establishment Republicans has been going on. I mean, the guy is a joke. This whole thing is a joke, but that's not what I meant by just look at this channel. Did you guys catch the banner? They referred to the case as Trump's federal coup trial, which just shows you these people will not miss an opportunity to poison the minds of the poor people that actually watch them, the people that actually depend on them. And you got to feel bad for these people. They really do believe that they're going to tune in and they're going to get the news. They're going to see what's going on. And they're just bombarded in every single possible way, man. How scary is that, really? That's scary shit. But anyway, they're totally freaking out. And it's funny. You know, they talk about the court moving too slowly. But when you look at it in the aggregate, they're the ones gumming up the program with every bit of nonsense that they have to go before the court. You know, the court should not have to be cleaning up the now 3 states that think that they have the authority to remove a candidate from a ballot over a crime that no one can even agree happened. You know, they should not be wasting their time with that, but they are. And that is not anyone's fault but the left. And they talk about Republican theocrats in robes and expanding the court and making it less powerful. The Colorado decision, I believe, is going to be unanimous. And when we look at this in the future, I believe hearing this case was unanimous. These are not all Republicans. And adding more people who swear to the Constitution is not going to somehow magically change what the Constitution actually says. And they talk about changing its powers. I'm not sure exactly what that means. But the court has existed for 235 years, right? And it has made a lot of decisions. It's set a lot of precedent, important stuff. And it's amazing to me to watch radical MSNBC pundits opine on destroying everything about the court while also pretending to be serious people in search of some sort of justice, right? And if you still believe that these people are correct and the Supreme Court of the United States is just wrong.
Congressman, this decision first here that just came out of Illinois was completely unexpected today. So now you've got 3 states banning Trump from being on the ballot. The Colorado case is in front of the Supreme Court. They have yet to make a decision. Are you surprised to hear this decision from the judge in Illinois?
Well, knowing the facts of the case, Aaron, and having been on the floor when Donald Trump incited and aimed the mob that paused the counting of the vote and led to the violence, I'm not surprised that a judge would find that he's disqualified because he committed insurrection, which of course the Constitution says if you do that, you can't be on the ballot. Aaron, I don't know if your viewers know this, but I was the only member who testified in the Colorado case. And I did that a little bit reluctantly because I'm competitive and I want to beat Donald Trump and the idea of MAGA, and I want to do that this November because I think doing that is the best reset we can have for democracy. But a plain reading of the Constitution suggests that if you commit insurrection, and it seems pretty clear that he did, that you can't be on the ballot. And so I look for
This guy, dude, what a clown, man. He says the best thing for our country would be to beat Donald Trump and all things MAGA at the ballot box. But I just can't take that chance, is essentially what he said. We can't possibly allow even the opportunity for the voters that may disagree with me to screw this up. I mean, just listen to the guy. They can't even hear themselves talk, man. I've said the word precedent more than a few times today, but just imagine that precedent. I mean, Eric Swalwell, yeah, I mean, I'm really competitive and I believe my ideas, my values, and my policies are superior. I'd sure like to beat you fairly, and I know I can, but I just can't take that chance. And then, yes, he reminds the viewers, we got to remind your viewers, I believe so much in beating him at the ballot box that I was the one and only member of a 535-person body who reluctantly testified in Colorado. I'm not sure that quite sends the message or has the effect that Eric Swalwell is hoping for, but that's Eric Swalwell for you. I still don't know what a spy as attractive and as smart as Fang Fang really saw in this guy.
can't be on the ballot. And so I look forward to our Supreme Court resolving it, and however they decide, I will accept that, and we'll move to November.
So they're going to decide that, and there had been some congressmen, and obviously you as being on the Judiciary Committee, as you say, testifying in the Colorado case, attorney yourself, some had thought that they would pair the two decisions, that they would come out and maybe unanimously say that Trump actually should be allowed to be on the ballot and put that to the voters, therefore, in Colorado. And at the same time say, you know what, we don't need to hear the immunity case. We're going to let those three judges' decision that Trump is not immune from criminal prosecution stand, and we're going to let Jack Smith's case go ahead. They've not done that, right? They have chosen not to do that. They took 3 weeks to make a decision in the immunity case, and now they're not hearing oral arguments till April 22nd. It appears very clear on the calendar that we're being given that means that there will not be a verdict in the January 6th case before Election Day. Have you had a chance to process this?
Yes, and what this all tells me is that our system, our Constitution, our rule of law was not built for a legal terrorist like Donald Trump. He is a professional litigant. He has been a part of thousands of cases, and he knows all of the tactics of delay. And we're just not built, to respond, to someone who threatens our Constitution, our democracy, our rule of law. But we.
Did you see that poor host actually wince when Swalwell called Donald Trump a professional legal terrorist? Even she thought that was a bit goofy. It's almost like she wanted to remind him, hey pal, you're on CNN. This is the most trusted name in news. It's not some MSNBC show, all right? But I appreciate that he's pretending that he will accept the Supreme Court's decision. That's a change. I don't believe him. I have a feeling he'd be one of the first people actually putting out ads trying to use whatever decision comes to his benefit, if that's possible. But here's what I think a lot of these people really are missing about what's going on. The Supreme Court is not making a decision on whether or not a president has absolute immunity. I think it would surprise a lot of the people that are their victims to find out the president does have absolute immunity. It's the same immunity that gave Barack Obama the authority to personally order and authorize 563 drone strikes, some of them on American citizens and some of them ending the lives of between 384 people that we know for sure, but maybe as high as 800 innocent civilians. So this immunity exists, and I'm sure Barry Obama is watching this case closer than anybody. The immunity exists. What the court needs to consider is, do the charges that Jack Smith filed fall within the scope of Donald Trump's presidential duties? And I think what will actually happen is something liberals in the media really aren't even seeing as a possibility. The court is going to dissect and examine this entire case, because if you want to know if immunity applies to a specific set of charges, well, you have to understand that specific set of charges. I mean, just take the very, very first one in the indictment, 18 U.S.C. 371, which is conspiracy to defraud. Smith says that Donald Trump pursued unlawful means to discount legitimate votes. Other legal minds say it's perfectly reasonable and within the duties of the president to ensure that the votes are legal and official. Just questioning votes does not make them illegitimate. And really, it's not an unreasonable thing. But anyway, reasonable, legitimate, lawful, these are not things that a lot of these people are known for. Remember, these are the same people who believe that Donald Trump and Joe Biden committed the very same crimes regarding classified materials, but that Joe should get off because he's a sweet, old, well-meaning guy with a poor memory. But anyway, that's just my take, guys. Let me know yours in the comments. If you haven't already, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.